Hey everybody, and welcome along to a beautiful yin class today. My name is Shard, and the intention of this class is just to allow you to drop into a deep state of meditation, stretch and rinse everything out, and hopefully find some clarity in the mind so that you can finish the class feeling nice and relaxed, open and happy. We're going to get started. If you want to, you can take a bolster or a block if you've got them at home. If you don't worry about it. Maybe grab a cushion or just something that you can use for a little bit of support throughout the practice. Starting in a seated position, finding your legs crossed. If you're not comfortable in a seated position, I recommend that you sit onto your bolster or your block to elevate the hips slightly and give a little more space. We're going to lift the spine up nice and tall. Take the hands down onto your knees or thighs, either facing the palms up or down if that feels better for you. Closing the eyes down here. Let's start with 5 rounds of breath, fully in, fully out. Just moving through in your own time here. When you're ready, taking your right hand to your belly, your left hand to your heart space, I invite you to just tune in and see how you're actually feeling today. Maybe you've had a really long, stressful day, or maybe it was a bit of a rush for you to squeeze your yoga practice in. So just giving yourself a moment. Maybe you feel amazing, you feel energized. Just tuning in with how the body's feeling today, how your heart's feeling. Beautiful. When you're ready, release the hands back down. Let's softly open the eyes. We have a very gentle flow. So setting yourself up into tabletop, release the legs, come all the way back around to find yourself on all fours. Gently draw your 2 big toes to touch, knees out wide, and sink the pelvis back. We're going to walk the arms out really nice and long, and then gently press the forehead down onto your mat, closing the eyes. Finding your breath here. Allow the hips to release as you sink them a little further back. You can always put a bolster or block under your forehead and chest here if your hips are not glued to your heels. It's okay if there's a little bit of space between the two, but ideally we really want that pressure going down the back and lengthening out through your arms. If you have more space through your chest and shoulders, I'm going to say take a bind. Find a prayer behind the back of your neck by connecting your palms to touch. Bend the elbows and gently place the thumbs to the back of the neck with the pinky fingers stretching up towards the ceiling. Find the breath here as you let the belly settle. Maybe you adjust the elbows. Release and slowly lift the gaze to look forward. Walk both hands over to the right side as far as you can. Stack your left hand on top of the right hand and gently press down. Maybe you can take your forehead to the mat, finding the breath here. Nice deep breaths. Allowing your mind to slow down as we slow the body, the breath. Gently coming back into center and making your way over all the way to the other side. Creating that space through the spine and side body. Maybe you're finding even deeper breaths now because you've given yourself a little bit of time to unwind. Find length through the right side body, heaviness in the hips. And then make your way back into center. We'll come up into a tabletop position. Let's work into puppy pose. So take the arms out nice and long. This will look different for everyone. You might have your forehead resting on the mat. Focus on opening through your shoulders. Those of you that are a little bit more bendy, you're going to place your chin down onto the floor and work on getting the heart space down onto the mat. So just finding what works for you here. Closing down the eyes. Breathing. Slowly make your way all the way back up. Find your way into a tabletop. Let's begin to drop the belly. Inhale, lift the gaze. Move through cat-cow. Exhale, rinsing, tucking the spine all the way back. Drop the belly to inhale, open through the chest. Exhale, tuck, round and rinse away. 2 more rounds here. Really nice and slow. Remember, in Yin Yoga, we're just wanting to slow down. Typically, you probably wouldn't be moving so much, but I personally like just that little bit of flow, even when you're in a Yin practice, just to kind of rinse everything out. Last round. Nice, and then finding a neutral tabletop. So let's have a little look at the feet today. Draw your knees together. Tuck all 10 toes behind you and walk your hands back. See if you can sit down, getting all 10 toes onto the floor. Sometimes it works great, other times not so much. So just see how your feet are feeling today. And then when you're ready, you can either have your hands interlaced, just resting on the thighs. If this is feeling like quite a lot, then you might be working on your hands. When I first started, I was always working on the elbows here. So just feel into what's working for you today. If you've got quite tight feet, it might be an elbow situation. Maybe you're just kind of on the hands there, finding an in-between. Or you might be up. And it's totally up to you. So just feeling into it. We're going to close the eyes down. And take another 5 deep breaths here, wherever you might be. Good, releasing gently, come all the way back up, untuck the toes, and we're going to sit the hips back. So you're sitting all the way back just to relax the feet out for a moment. And then when you're ready, coming up into your tabletop position once again. From here, taking the right hand to the center of the mat, lift your left arm up nice and tall. And we're going to come into a twist. So you're going to come all the way through, thread the needle pose, stretch your right arm up long to the ceiling to begin, and then take it all the way to the front of your mat with the eyes either looking up to the ceiling or you might close them down If you're feeling a bit stuck, you might be a bit more over here with the right arm. That's okay. We were just wanting this rotation through the spine and a sense of openness through this right shoulder. Breathing. Release. Find your way back, take your time. Remember, we're in slow motion today. Left hand is going to come to the center. Peel the right arm up, nice big stretch. Let's thread all the way through here, taking the shoulder down onto the mat and then lifting the left arm nice and long and stretching it towards the front of the mat or your room. Closing the eyes, creating the twist and a sense of openness through this left shoulder. See if you can walk the left fingertips even further back behind you. Think about what the feet are doing here. Notice if they're kind of like crossing out on a little bit of a weird direction. Try to direct them straight back towards the back of the mat. Remember, we want to have the gaze up to the ceiling, even if the eyes are closed. When you're ready, slowly release. Come on back into tabletop position. Let's tuck the toes and gently lift the hips to downwards facing dog. This will be the most effort we're going to use here today. So just take a little bit of time to feel out through the hamstrings. Maybe you bend one knee and then the other. Create that space here. Breathing. We're going to take the feet a little bit wider than what we normally would. And then mindfully walk the hands back towards the feet. From here, bow the body deep into a forward fold and grab a hold of opposite elbows. Just gently tuck your chin in towards the chest. We're going to hang out in ragdoll. Tucking the chin, closing the eyes. Deepening each breath. So you might stay here. Remember to bend the knees if your belly and thighs aren't quite touching. If you want a little bit more, you want to add to this, first of all, add a little bit of curiosity as far as the feet go. So you might lean forward and then lean back. And then we're going to take the hands behind the back, interlacing the fingers. Remember, this is just an option to add on. You don't have to do this. But see how much space you can find through the shoulders, tucking the chin. Deep breaths here. Maybe you gently sway side to side, get a bit curious. Release the hands down onto the mat. Begin to halfway lift and then walk yourself back into a tabletop position here. So we're coming back down onto the knees, mindful to lower them, untucking the toes. Take your right foot and step it to the outside of the right hand. Let's move into a low lunge position here. So low lizard lunge. You might tuck the toes at the back just for a moment, rock back and forward, find the placement of where you'd like to be, and then lower that back knee down. So choosing to either stay here, if you've got a little bit more space, you might find some rotation through this knee, this hip, gently pressing the knee away from the body, from the midline. If you want even more, you could come down onto your elbows. And again, adding to that is going back to take the back foot. So right hand goes back to take the outer edge of the left foot. This is pretty intense, so you just want to go to somewhere that you feel like you're kind of hanging out at about 30%, because we're going to be here for a while, and it's not pleasant if you're staying for a while in a place that's not comfortable. So give yourself a practice that you can enjoy and find happiness in, find space in, not a sense of contraction and forcing. A lot of people as well like to tuck the chin down and let the head be heavy here. You can totally do that. If you find that you naturally tend to round through the shoulders a little bit, maybe you actually work here on pulling the chest forward and taking the shoulders back. So you're still opening through the heart space, kind of countering that movement of hunching through the shoulders, which seems to happen these days with us all on laptops and on our phones and whatnot. So really thinking of opening the heart space if that's something that you're concerned about or you've been thinking about. Open the chest to counter that movement. Might give the neck a little rinse side to side. We're nearly there, guys. When you're ready, take the hands long back behind you. The hips, long back behind you for half splits. We're going to roll through this ankle a couple of times. Find the edge of it and then straighten up through this leg. If you need to, you can always use a block underneath your hands. Maybe one block to support you underneath the hand, maybe two, just depending on what the mobility is like. Finding yourself wherever fits. And then we're going to inhale to look forward and lengthen. Exhale to bow. Tuck the chin, close the eyes. Connect with your breath. Even if you feel like you're somewhere up here and you're feeling like a little bit stuck, that's okay. Don't stress about it. Just work into your body. Own the space that you have. Feel grateful for the space that you have, the body and the movement that you have. Let's begin to lift. Nice. And then from here, coming forward to walk this foot across, all the way across into Pigeon Pose. Sinking the left leg long back behind you. Oftentimes I see people kind of dropping off to the side here, so really just be mindful that the hips are square. And then when you're ready, bringing yourself down to the mat. To intensify this pose, you bring your right shin more parallel to the front of the mat, or maybe you're just happy where you are. If you want a little bit of support, you can take a block down to rest your forehead on the block, or a bolster down underneath your chest, your upper body. Notice the breath as we've been here for a little while now. Maybe the mind is starting to wander and think about, this or that. See if you can just remain focused on the breath and the sensations within the body. Something I've been practicing lately it's called loving awareness. And so instead of identifying with the thoughts that I'm experiencing, I'm practicing experiencing loving awareness. So I'm watching the thoughts unfold and I'm seeing them as if I am the loving awareness that is behind those thoughts. Because that's really truly, the yoga, being able to observe the mind with love and with compassion. So if your mind has started to kind of think about things other than your yoga practice, and bring yourself into that loving awareness. Land back into the body, the hips, the breath. Maybe you soften the shoulders. Ask your body, how can I be kind to you? How can I be loving awareness in this moment? When you're ready, we're going to slowly come on all the way back up. Nice work. Take your time. We took a while to get there, so gently lift. Come back to a downwards facing dog. And maybe you just have a little wriggle out here with this downwards facing dog. Find a little bit of a stretch, whatever works for you. And then moving to the left side. So let's begin again. Left side, stepping the foot to the outside of the left hand. Maybe you gently just pulse back and forward a couple of times. Find that nice openness of the hips, and then when you're ready, drop the back knee. So you're set up for lizard lunge. Pushing the left knee over towards the outside of the mat, away from the midline, and then finding yourself down either on your elbows, maybe a block. Just like you did on the other side, we want to find balance in the body, symmetry. Sometimes it's not always there, and I often think about that, like, when you're doing your eyebrows, you want them to be the same on both sides, but oftentimes they're not. And so if you experience imbalances in the body, one side's maybe stronger than the other, one side's maybe tighter than the other, that is very normal. It's a very human thing to be experiencing. So just notice. It's good to inquire. If you'd like to take the bind like we did on the other side, reaching the left arm back to take a hold of that back foot. I know that this is a lot, so you definitely don't have to take it. No force, only flow. We're going to release the back foot down. Slowly come up. Heel toe, the left heel in line with the hip, the left hip. And then draw a couple of circles with your ankle here, just kind of finding where the heel wants to sit. And then inhale, lift the chest to lengthen. Exhale, bowing. Half splits. Maybe you find an adjustment here. Make sure you're tilting the pelvis up and back, lengthening down through the torso. Maybe you flex the left toes back towards your face. Give the chin a little yes, a little no. And then lifting back up, let's come forward and walk this foot all the way over into Pigeon Pose. Drop the back knee down onto the mat, sliding all the way. You might choose to use a bolster, a block. You might just be splat down onto your mat. There's no right or wrong. We just want those hips nice and parallel to the mat. Spine nice and long. A nice deep breath and relaxed mind. When you're ready, slowly come on back. Press your way all the way back, just like we did before, into a downwards facing dog. Take your time with it. Maybe you give a little lift through that left leg. Find your breath and tippy toe your feet all the way up to the top of the mat. Cross the ankles over. Lower the hips, and then find yourself sitting down with your legs out in front of you here. We're going to roll the shoulders back, find the sit bones underneath you. Inhale to lift the gaze. Lean forward as you exhale and come into a nice deep forward fold. If you find this quite challenging, bend your knees, scoop underneath the knees with the elbows. Let the head be nice and heavy. Breathing into the lower back, in between the shoulder blades. And let the head be heavy. If you can, sink a little deeper into your forward fold. By all means, go ahead and lean into that now. This is a good time to come back to noticing if the mind is busy. Can you bring a loving awareness to your practice today? Slowly return back into a seated position. We're going to lift up. Take your block. If you don't have a block, maybe you use a pillow. I'm going to place it underneath the shoulder blades. So lying yourself back. If you've got a bolster, you're going to place your bolster underneath your knees. If you don't, no stress. You can just bend the knees, let the feet rest. We're going to drop the chin back behind so that the heart's nice and open towards the ceiling. That's it, with the feet on the floor there. So a nice little supported back bend here. Taking your arms long back behind you, stretching them out. Maybe you interlace your fingers. Let your knees just be heavy onto the bolster, closing down the eyes here. If it's too much with the arms long back, then you might take your hands down beside you and just adjust as you need to. So you want the knees feeling a little bit elevated, the hips feeling nice and heavy, and the chest nice and open so you can take the chin back behind you. Breathing fully in, fully out. Letting yourself rest here. Notice the breath here. Notice if left unchecked, if the mind begins to wander away. How can you bring your awareness back? Kindly, gently. When you're ready, gently, we're going to turn and just remove the block, from underneath you. And then place it off to one side. You can just place it wherever. You're going to use your block or bolster underneath your hip, so lifting the pelvis up into a supported bridge pose. And then from here, just allowing the pelvis to be nice and heavy. You can use a block under the hips if you want to. Does not have to be a bolster. And we're going to do the same thing, keeping the arms stretched long back behind you. Maybe there's a little soft bend in your elbows. Close the eyes and gently just deepening your breath here. Fully in. Fully out. Notice a little pelvic tilt, softening through the lower back. You can choose to stay here where we are, or you might choose to add in a little lift through the legs. So you're going to take your feet straight up towards the ceiling, keeping the eyes closed down, just breathing in, breathing out. You might notice with the legs up in the air that the feet start to feel a little bit tingly. Maybe you might even get pins and needles. And this is okay. We're getting all of the blood running back down, rinsing everything out. Notice the softness in the body, reflected in the mind. No rush to be anywhere other than where you are in this moment. Gently, let's bend the knees, take the legs back down onto the mat. Little glute bridge just to squeeze and lift to take the block or bolster out from underneath you. So you're lying down on the floor. We're going to take the right knee in towards the chest and stretch your left leg out long, sitting up for a twist. But before we twist, take a moment to just draw this right knee in towards your right shoulder. Stretch the left knee out nice and long. Close the eyes, breathing here. Draw the knee out wider. Maybe you let go with the left hand. Draw the left hand to left hip. Try to pull the right knee out nice and wide just for a moment. Create some space. And then draw it across. So grabbing a hold with the left hand. Take the knee over to the left. Stretch the right arm out to the right. Extending the gaze to the right thumb. Closing the eyes down. Make sure that you're using your gaze as a part of the twist. Keep that space. Let's move back into the center, nice and slow. Last pose, last side. Squeeze the left knee in towards the left shoulder. Stretch the right leg out nice and long. Take a moment here. Maybe you point the right toes just to feel that stretch opening through the right hip flexor. Draw the left knee in towards the left shoulder, and then keep the left hand on the knee. Draw the knee out wide. Right hand comes to right hip as you open up, taking the left knee even wider out away from the midline of the body. And then take your twist. So we'll draw the knee all the way over to the right side. Gaze is going to go towards your left hand, left thumb. Breathing here. Fully in. Fully out. Come on back into center. Take a moment to just realign the hips. I'm going to draw the knees in towards the shoulders. Find a little moment of compression here, pressing down into the lower back. Pull the shoulders down towards the mat, the elbows in towards the waist. Gently pulling one knee to the chest and then the other, creating a gentle rocking. And then setting yourself up for your final pose, Shavasana. So you might like to lie down in Shavasana with a bolster underneath your knees. If you want to set it up like that, go for it. Maybe just relaxing the knees onto the bolster with the hands coming down. If you don't have one, just lay flat, maybe a little bend in the knees, close the eyes. Take a nice deep breath in. A long breath out, maybe you sigh it out the mouth. And then just let yourself rest here with the eyes closed down as long as you like. Do a little body scan. Bring that intention of loving awareness back into your mind's eye. And feel free to stay in your Shavasana as long as you like today. A nice slow practice, so maybe you want to hang out there for a while. Otherwise, when you're ready, you can wrap your practice up and finish seated. Give yourself a moment to just integrate. Give yourself a little bow, a little namaste, whatever seals your practice, your ritual of returning back to the mat. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining me today through this yin practice. If you enjoyed today's practice, feel free to like this video, leave a comment in the comment section, and make sure you subscribe for more yoga content coming your way. Have a beautiful day, everybody, and I will see you soon.